Picture a shattered Japan, where mighty clans wage endless wars for control of territories, and betrayal is the only law of the land. Through this chaos emerges a young warlord with unprecedented ambition to unify Japan. His name, Oda Nobunaga. How did this man, labeled as mad by many, initiate a process that would forever change Japanese history? Brace yourself for an epic journey of strategy, betrayal, and glory. The land of the rising sun was torn apart by conflict. Villages burned, while samurai clashed on blood-soaked battlefields. Common folk lived in constant fear as armies marched across their lands. This was Japan during the Sengoku Period, the age of warring states, a time when the country resembled a shattered mirror, each piece reflecting the ambitions of feudal lords, known as daimyo. Between the 15th and 16th centuries after Christ, Japan had descended into utter chaos. Hundreds of domains, each ruled by ambitious warlords, fought for supremacy. It was in this turbulent era that Oda Nobunaga emerged from the shadows. While others saw only obstacles, he saw opportunity. While others fought for land, he fought for a vision, a unified Japan. Nobunaga was different from other daimyo. Where traditional lords clung to old ways, he embraced innovation. While others relied on honor, he mastered the art of strategic thinking. His military tactics were revolutionary, his political moves unpredictable, and his determination unshakable. But his path to power was far from smooth. He faced powerful rivals who commanded vast armies, weathered betrayals from his own family, and overcame challenges that would have broken lesser men. Today, we will unravel the fascinating story of how Nobunaga changed the course of Japanese history. We'll explore the mind of a man who dared to dream of unity in a time of division, who chose innovation over tradition, and who would lay the foundation for the Japan we know today. If you love history and want to unlock the mysteries of great empires, like this video, subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles and join us on an incredible journey through time. Hit that notification bell and never miss an episode of our historical adventures. In the year 1534, a child was born who would change the fate of Japan forever. Oda Nobunaga came into this world as the son of a minor daimyo in Owari province. But destiny had greater plans for him than simply inheriting his father's modest domain. Young Nobunaga was anything but conventional. While other noble children spent their days studying classical literature and practicing formal etiquette, he could be found running through the streets, mingling with commoners, and breaking almost every rule of proper samurai behavior. His wild nature and unconventional methods earned him a notorious reputation. The people of Owari began calling him the Fool of Owari, a nickname that would follow him throughout his early years. But what many saw as foolishness was actually a keen mind at work. While other young lords were trapped in their gilded cages of tradition, Nobunaga was learning the ways of common folk, understanding the real world beyond castle walls, and developing a unique perspective that would later prove invaluable. When his father suddenly died, 13-year-old Nobunaga faced his first great challenge. He inherited not just a title, but a mess of epic proportions. The Oda clan was torn apart by internal rivalries, with powerful family members plotting against each other. Outside their borders, hungry enemies watched like vultures, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Most expected the young, seemingly erratic heir to fail spectacularly. But Nobunaga proved them all wrong. With a cunning that belied his years, he began eliminating threats within his own family. One by one, his rivals fell to his strategic genius. Whether through clever alliances, decisive battles, or careful political maneuvering, Nobunaga systematically consolidated his power. Perhaps his most brilliant move came when he turned his own reputation to his advantage. While others underestimated the Fool of Owari, he struck with unexpected precision. Those who laughed at his unconventional methods soon found themselves kneeling before him or facing the sharp end of his sword. Within a few years, what was once a fractured and weak domain became a unified power under his command. The Fool of Owari had transformed into something his enemies feared much more, a brilliant strategist with the ambition to reach far beyond the borders of his province. And this was just the beginning of his remarkable journey to reshape Japan. The year 1560 marked a turning point in Japanese history, though few knew it at the time. Imagawa Yoshimoto, one of the most powerful daimyo in Japan, had set his sights on the imperial capital of Kyoto. With an overwhelming force of 25,000 warriors, his victory seemed assured. The only obstacle in his path was a young upstart named Oda Nobunaga. Nobunaga's situation appeared hopeless. His army numbered merely 3,000 men, facing odds of nearly 9-1. Many of his advisors urged him to surrender or flee, arguing that resistance would mean certain death. But Nobunaga saw something his enemies didn't, an opportunity hidden within disaster. The summer heat had given way to dark clouds, and soon a fierce thunderstorm broke over the battlefield. While Yoshimoto's massive army sought shelter, celebrating their anticipated victory with sake and festivities, Nobunaga was formulating an audacious plan that would soon become legendary. Using the storm as cover, Nobunaga led his small force through hidden mountain paths. The rain masked their approach, while thunder disguised the sound of their movement. When they finally emerged near the Imagawa camp, they found their enemies completely unprepared, many drunk and celebrating prematurely. The attack was swift and devastating. In the chaos and confusion of the storm, Yoshimoto initially mistook the attack for a drunken brawl among his own men. By the time he realized what was happening, it was too late. The mighty Imagawa Yoshimoto, who had dreamed of conquering Kyoto, met his end in that rain-soaked field, his head taken by Nobunaga's warriors. This brilliant victory at Okehazama showcased Nobunaga's military genius. He had turned disadvantages into advantages, using the weather, terrain, and even his enemies' overconfidence as weapons. The battle became a textbook example of how superior strategy could overcome overwhelming odds. But Nobunaga's military innovations didn't stop there. He was also a pioneer in modernizing Japanese warfare. While traditional samurai looked down on firearms as dishonorable weapons, Nobunaga recognized their revolutionary potential. When Portuguese traders arrived with their matchlock guns, he didn't just buy them, he established his own weapons manufacturing facilities. He trained specialized units in the use of these firearms, developing new tactics that would forever change Japanese warfare. Under his command, rows of gunners would fire in rotating volleys, maintaining a constant barrage that could shatter even the most determined cavalry charge. This adoption of firearms would prove crucial in his later campaigns, as he systematically conquered more territory. The Battle of Okehazama was more than just a military victory. It was the moment when Japan's warlords realized that a new kind of leader had emerged. One who would not be bound by tradition, who could turn certain defeat into stunning victory, and who had the vision to embrace new technologies that would reshape the art of war. From that rain-soaked day forward, none could doubt that Oda Nobunaga was a force to be reckoned with. Among all of Nobunaga's strategic decisions, perhaps none proved more significant than his alliance with a young, ambitious leader named Tokugawa Ieyasu. At the time, Ieyasu was still known by his birth name, Matsudaira Takechio, leading a relatively small clan. Yet Nobunaga saw something in this young daimyo that others missed, a brilliant military mind and political acumen that matched his own. Their alliance began as a matter of survival. Both leaders faced constant threats from powerful neighbors, particularly the fearsome Takeda clan. Takeda Shingen, known as the Tiger of Kai, was renowned throughout Japan for his military prowess and his fearsome cavalry charges. His very name struck terror into the hearts of his enemies. But together, Nobunaga and Ieyasu formed a partnership that would reshape Japanese history. They complemented each other perfectly. Nobunaga with his bold, innovative strategies and willingness to break with tradition, and Ieyasu with his patient, methodical approach and diplomatic skills. While Nobunaga was known for his dramatic victories and aggressive expansion, Ieyasu excelled at consolidating gains and building lasting alliances. Their combined forces faced numerous challenges, including several epic confrontations with the Takeda clan. These battles became legendary, with massive armies clashing across the Japanese countryside. The alliance proved its worth time and again, as each leader supported the other in times of crisis. When Takeda's cavalry threatened Ieyasu's territories, Nobunaga's arquebusiers would come to his aid. When Nobunaga needed diplomatic finesse to manage complex political situations, Ieyasu's steady hand proved invaluable. What made this alliance truly remarkable was its longevity in an era known for betrayal. While other alliances crumbled at the first sign of weakness, the bond between Nobunaga and Ieyasu grew stronger with each passing year. They shared not just military victories, but a vision for a unified Japan. This partnership would have consequences far beyond either leader's lifetime. Though Nobunaga would not live to see Japan unified, the foundation he built with Ieyasu would ultimately lead to the Tokugawa Shogunate, a period of peace and unity that would last for more than 2 centuries. The story of Nobunaga and Ieyasu shows how two brilliant minds can change the course of history. Speaking of brilliant strategies, did you know that Nobunaga revolutionized Japanese warfare by being one of the first to adopt firearms on a large scale? If you're enjoying these fascinating historical insights, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles for more amazing stories from history. And we'd love to hear from you. What do you think was Nobunaga's most impressive strategy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In 1571, Nobunaga made a decision that would forever mark his legacy and demonstrate just how far he was willing to go to achieve his goals. Mount Hiei, a sacred mountain northeast of Kyoto, had stood for nearly 1,000 years as one of Japan's most important religious centers. Its mighty Enryaku-ji temple complex was home to thousands of warrior monks and was considered untouchable until Nobunaga decided to change that. The mountain monastery wasn't just a religious institution, it had become a formidable military and political force. The warrior monks, known as Sohei, maintained their own armies and frequently meddled in political affairs. They had backed Nobunaga's enemies numerous times, using their religious authority to rally opposition against him. The temple's strategic location also made it a perfect base for armies threatening Kyoto. Nobunaga saw what others dared not acknowledge, that religious institutions wielding military power were as much a threat to unity as any rival daimyo. When diplomatic attempts to neutralize Mount Hiei failed, he made an unprecedented decision that shocked the entire nation. On a cool autumn day, Nobunaga's armies surrounded the mountain. Traditional Japanese warfare had always respected religious institutions. Temples were considered sacred ground, protected by both custom and divine law. But Nobunaga was about to shatter these ancient traditions. He ordered his men to set fire to the temple complex and to show no mercy. The entire mountain was soon engulfed in flames. As the fires raged, thousands of monks, acolytes, and civilians perished. The magnificent temples, with their centuries of religious and cultural treasures, were reduced to ashes. The screams of the dying echoed across the valleys, and the smoke could be seen from Kyoto. The destruction of Mount Hiei sent shockwaves through Japanese society. It was seen as an act of unprecedented sacrilege. Many Japanese were horrified that anyone would dare to destroy such a sacred place. Even some of Nobunaga's own allies were disturbed by his willingness to break such fundamental taboos. But this shocking act served its purpose. It sent a clear message throughout Japan. Nobunaga would not be bound by tradition or religious authority. No institution, no matter how ancient or sacred, would stand in the way of his vision for a unified Japan. The burning of Mount Hiei became a symbol of his determination to reshape Japan, regardless of the cost. This event marked a turning point in Japanese history. It demonstrated that old systems and institutions could no longer hide behind tradition and religious authority. In Nobunaga's Japan, power would be measured by strength and strategic value, not by ancient privileges or sacred status. The destruction of Mount Hiei remains one of the most controversial episodes in Japanese history. It revealed both Nobunaga's ruthless pragmatism and his revolutionary vision. While some saw him as a brutal destroyer of tradition, others recognized him as a visionary who understood that sometimes the old must be swept away for the new to emerge. Either way, after Mount Hiei, no one could doubt his resolve to transform Japan, no matter what sacred cows had to be sacrificed along the way. In the spring of 1582, at the height of his power, Oda Nobunaga's remarkable journey would come to a dramatic and unexpected end. The man who had conquered most of central Japan, who had revolutionized warfare and who seemed unstoppable, would fall not to a mighty army, but to betrayal from within his own ranks. Akechi Mitsuhide was one of Nobunaga's most trusted generals, a man who had fought countless battles under his banner. Educated, cultured, and skilled in both war and poetry, Mitsuhide had earned Nobunaga's confidence through years of loyal service. Yet beneath this facade of loyalty, dark thoughts were brewing. The events that unfolded at the Honnoji Temple in Kyoto would become one of the most infamous moments in Japanese history. Nobunaga, staying at the temple with only a small guard force, was preparing to support another campaign when Mitsuhide's troops surrounded the building in the early morning hours. The betrayal was so sudden and unexpected that even the great strategist Nobunaga found himself caught completely off guard. As flames engulfed the temple and enemy soldiers poured in from all sides, Nobunaga faced his final moments with the same fierce dignity that had marked his life. Rather than fall to his betrayer's blade, he chose to maintain control over his destiny through seppuku, the ritual suicide of the samurai. His last moments were spent ensuring the destruction of his personal belongings and documents, denying his enemies any trophies of their treachery. But why did Mitsuhide turn against his lord? This question has fascinated historians for centuries. Some say Nobunaga had publicly humiliated Mitsuhide once too often. Others suggest Mitsuhide was secretly aligned with Nobunaga's enemies. A famous Japanese saying emerged from this event: "The rebel took 3 days to take power and lost it in 13 days. Indeed, Mitsuhide's triumph was short-lived. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, another of Nobunaga's generals and his most loyal supporter, moved with incredible speed to avenge his fallen lord. In just 13 days, Hideyoshi's forces crushed Mitsuhide's army at the Battle of Yamazaki. Mitsuhide himself was killed while fleeing, reportedly by a group of peasants who didn't even know his identity. While Nobunaga's death shocked Japan, his vision did not die with him. Toyotomi Hideyoshi would take up his fallen lord's dream of unification, continuing the work Nobunaga had started. And after Hideyoshi's own death, it would be Tokugawa Ieyasu, Nobunaga's old ally, who would finally achieve the dream of a unified Japan in 1603, establishing a peace that would last for over 2 centuries. The betrayal at Honnoji Temple remains one of the most dramatic tales in Japanese history, a reminder that even the mightiest can fall to betrayal from within. Yet it also shows how great visions can survive their creators, as Nobunaga's dream of a unified Japan would ultimately be realized through those he had inspired and mentored. As we've explored throughout this video, Nobunaga's story teaches us that no matter how powerful we become, trust and loyalty are precious commodities that can never be taken for granted. His legacy lives on not just in the Japan he helped create, but in the lessons his life and death teach us about ambition, leadership, and the price of greatness. What makes a leader truly great? Is it their victories in battle, their political achievements, or perhaps something more profound, their ability to fundamentally change the world they lived in? When we look at Oda Nobunaga's legacy, we see all of these elements and more woven into a tapestry of innovation and transformation that forever altered the course of Japanese history. Though Nobunaga never saw his dream of a unified Japan realized, the seeds he planted would grow into the mighty tree of Japanese unification. His revolutionary approach to warfare, politics, and social structure created a blueprint that his successors would follow to completion. But perhaps even more remarkable than what he did was how he did it. In an age when tradition was sacred and innovation was often viewed with suspicion, Nobunaga dared to be different. When Portuguese missionaries arrived with their strange weapons, most Japanese lords dismissed these firearms as dishonorable. But Nobunaga saw beyond tradition to recognize their potential. He not only adopted these weapons, but revolutionized their use, creating specialized units of gunners who would train relentlessly to perfect their craft. This military innovation alone changed the face of Japanese warfare forever. But Nobunaga's genius wasn't limited to military matters. He was one of the first Japanese leaders to recognize the value of free trade and open markets. In his territories, he abolished toll roads and encouraged merchants to trade freely, understanding that economic prosperity could be as powerful as military might. He even went so far as to establish rakuichi rakuza, free markets where merchants could trade without the traditional guild restrictions that had dominated Japanese commerce for centuries. His approach to leadership was equally revolutionary. While other lords surrounded themselves exclusively with samurai of proper lineage, Nobunaga promoted men based on their abilities rather than their birth. Some of his most trusted generals came from humble origins, including Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who rose from being a simple sandal bearer to becoming Nobunaga's successor and eventually the second great unifier of Japan. In matters of religion and culture, Nobunaga showed the same willingness to break with tradition when it served his greater purpose. He welcomed Christian missionaries not out of religious conviction, but because he recognized their value in bringing European knowledge and trade connections to Japan. At the same time, he wasn't afraid to challenge the powerful Buddhist monasteries when they opposed his plans for unification. Perhaps one of Nobunaga's most lasting legacies was his understanding of the power of innovation itself. In an era when most leaders tried to preserve the old ways, he consistently embraced new ideas, new technologies, and new ways of thinking. This openness to innovation would influence Japanese leadership for generations to come. The impact of his legacy can be seen in how his successors, Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Tokugawa Ieyasu, would go on to complete his work. They followed his example of combining military might with political acumen, his willingness to embrace new ideas while maintaining what worked from the old, and his vision of a unified Japan where merit mattered as much as birth. Today, centuries after his death, Nobunaga's influence can still be felt in Japanese culture and society. He stands as a testament to the power of visionary leadership and the importance of being willing to break with tradition when necessary. His story teaches us that true greatness often lies not in following established paths, but in having the courage to forge new ones. In the end, Oda Nobunaga's greatest legacy might be this simple but powerful lesson, that with enough vision, courage, and willingness to embrace change, one person can alter the destiny of an entire nation. His life shows us that true leadership isn't just about maintaining the status quo. It's about having the courage to imagine a different future and the determination to make that future a reality. As we come to the end of our journey through the remarkable life of Oda Nobunaga, we're left with profound questions about the nature of leadership, ambition, and the price of progress. This man, who rose from being mocked as the fool of Owari to becoming one of Japan's most transformative leaders, forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about what it takes to change the world. Nobunaga was more than just another warlord in an age of constant warfare. He was a visionary who dared to imagine a unified Japan when others saw only eternal conflict. He was an innovator who embraced new technologies when others clung to tradition. He was a reformer who promoted talent over birthright when such ideas seemed unthinkable. Yet his methods were often harsh, his decisions controversial, and his path to power stained with blood. The burning of Mount Hiei, the ruthless elimination of rivals, the breaking of centuries-old traditions, all raise questions about the moral cost of progress. Where do we draw the line between necessary change and excessive force? When does ambition cross the boundary from inspiring to destructive? These questions echo through time, remaining just as relevant today as they were in 16th century Japan. Every leader who seeks to change an established system, every innovator who challenges traditional ways, must grapple with similar dilemmas. How much of the old must we sacrifice to build something new? What price are we willing to pay for progress? Nobunaga's story reminds us that great changes rarely come easily or without cost. His legacy lives on not just in the Japan he helped create, but in the eternal questions his life poses about leadership, innovation, and the price of ambition. Perhaps that's his greatest gift to us, not just the changes he achieved, but the questions he forces us to confront about how change itself should be achieved. If you've found this journey through one of history's most fascinating periods as compelling as we have, we invite you to join us for more historical adventures. Here at Modern Age Chronicles, we're passionate about bringing history's greatest stories to life, exploring not just what happened, but what it means for us today. Make sure to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this exploration of Oda Nobunaga's life and legacy. Share this video with friends who love history or anyone interested in understanding how great leaders change the world. Subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles and ring that notification bell to join us on more journeys through time as we continue to uncover the stories that shaped our world. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Nobunaga's methods? Was he a visionary leader who did what was necessary, or did he go too far? Share your perspective in the comments below, and let's continue this fascinating discussion together. Until our next historical adventure, remember that history isn't just about the past. It's about understanding how we got to where we are and what we can learn for the future. See you in our next episode.